My name is Amelia Hart, and I'm 21 years old. In our house, Danielle's name moved like music, expensive, framed, replayed. If she coughed, my mother brewed ginger tea in a porcelain cup with little blue flowers. If I ran a fever, I got, "You'll be fine by morning. Take a nap." Danielle's report cards sat in glass frames on the hallway wall, like small museum exhibits. Mine developed a talent for vanishing under takeout menus and junk mail. There wasn't screaming, no slammed doors or teenage ultimatums, just absence, like someone quietly turning down the volume on my life until even I could barely hear it. By high school, I learned the choreography of being optional. I'd walk in from an after-school shift to find dinner half finished, plates already rinsed. "Oh, we thought you ate at work," Dad would say, eyes never leaving the TV. When Danielle turned 13, she got a rented VR rig, 30 guests, and a magician who pulled silk scarves from thin air. On my 16th, I got a quick "Happy birthday, honey," before Mom asked if I could mow the lawn before guests arrived for Danielle's cello recital. I told myself I wasn't jealous. I told myself a lot of things. But what I really was starving, not for cake or VR, for a steady gaze, a hand on my shoulder that said, "You. We mean you." By graduation, the hierarchy had a neon sign. Danielle was going places. I was going to figure it out. She got a private university acceptance and a dinner celebration that looked like an ad for happiness. I enrolled in community college without telling anyone and picked up a second job. Mornings I stocked produce at the grocery store, snapping rubber bands around herbs until my fingers ached. Evenings I delivered pizzas with a half-broken GPS and a soda bottle that rolled back and forth under my seat like a small, carbonated ghost. Some nights, when gas cost more than pride, I slept in the back of my dented Civic, hugging my backpack, listening to mosquitoes whine against the cracked window. It wasn't dramatic, just small, daily choices that turned into a life. Here's the stupid miracle. I still kept a dream. I'd stare at the sodium orange glow of the streetlights and draft the outline of a future. Nothing fancy. An apartment with peeling paint but working heat. A job where my name tag wasn't half-peeled foam. Maybe a dog that thought I hung the moon. Mostly I wanted peace, but peace never hurts less when paired with success. The weirdness arrived on a Tuesday, mid-shift, layered in heat. I was double parked outside a dental office, balancing a pepperoni pizza like an offering, when a sleek black sedan pulled up behind me. The window purred down and a face tilted into view, familiar in the way old photographs are. Same eyes as my mother, same uncompromising jawline, better shoes. "Amelia?" The woman squinted. The name landed like a spotlight. "It can't be. Amelia Hart?" I recognized her in pieces. The myth in family stories, the cautionary tale told in lowered voices. Aunt Rhea Carlton, the rich one. The one Mom said was too arrogant for her own good. The one Dad said cooked books for fun. She hadn't come to a holiday since I was 12. The family version of a ghost. Real, inconvenient, discussed only when the air needed a villain. "Aunt Rhea," I managed, shifting the pizza box. "Hi." She let out a low whistle and laughed, not unkindly. "Well, I'll be. You're all grown up. You delivering now?" "Just part-time," I said, cheeks flaring. Her smile thinned. "Part-time and what else?" "2 jobs, plus classes." She looked at me a beat too long, eyes measuring facts my parents never filed. Then she reached into her wallet and slid out a business card. It was heavy. Thick cardstock with raised lettering you feel more than see. Rhea Carlton, founder and CEO, Stratex Holdings. "Come see me tomorrow," she said. Not a question, not a rescue. A door opened a crack. I went still, like movement might shatter the moment. No one in my family had offered me anything but chores and advice that tasted like vinegar. This sounded like faith or curiosity. Maybe those are cousins. That night, I balanced my phone on my steering wheel and stared at the card. Every story I'd ever heard about Aunt Rhea came back like a chorus. Ambitious, cold, ruthless. The family had cast her as a woman who wanted too much and loved too little. It's funny how people rewrite the ones who leave them. Still, something in her voice from the curb felt real. Concern, wrapped in competence. By morning, I had done what I always do, made a plan, and then leapt anyway. I put on the cleanest clothes I owned, khakis that still pretended to fit, a shirt I once tried to iron with a hotel hair straightener, and took the bus downtown. The Stratex lobby looked like a spaceship lobby. Cool marble, green plants that were definitely alive, quiet that felt expensive. The receptionist wore an earpiece and a smile that implied standards. I gave my name. She checked her screen, then nodded. Ms. Hart, Ms. Carlton is expecting you. 18th floor. By the time the elevator opened, my palms were a study in humidity. Aunt Ria's office had a glass wall view of the city and furniture that made me stand up straighter just by existing. She stood when I entered and shook my hand like I wasn't a stray relative but someone whose time meant something. You made it, she said. Coffee? I half laughed. Yes, please. She poured it herself. No assistant, no theater. Then, I'll be blunt, Amelia. I didn't expect to see you hauling pizzas. Your mother talks like you're doing fine. She said you were neck deep in tech stuff. Her mouth tilted. Whatever that means. I let out a brittle sound that wanted to be a laugh. Community college, 2 jobs. I sleep in my car, some nights. Her eyebrows rose, a small, precise shock. That's what they let happen to you? I could have shrugged, I could have lied, I did neither. They had bigger plans for Danielle. Silence, just for a breath. Ria reached for a folder on her desk and slid it toward me. I have a summer intern spot. It's not glamorous. Spreadsheets, research, onboarding, but it pays, and you'll work under Kareem in operations. If you learn fast, doors open. This is the part where Cinderella says yes before the dust settles. I didn't. I held her gaze and asked, why me? Something softened in her face, then repositioned into steel. Because when I was your age, your grandfather watched me drown in expectations he only paid lip service to. I promised myself if I ever saw another girl in this family being dimmed, I'd do the opposite. It shouldn't have hit like it did, but there it was. A woman saying she wouldn't let history repeat just because it fit nicely on the mantel. I swallowed the knot in my throat and nodded. I'll take it. Good, she said, the corner of her mouth finally giving in to a smile. You start Monday. And Amelia, get yourself a decent shirt. We don't do polo logos in ops. When I left the building, the city looked like possibility wearing a glass coat. I caught my reflection in a window. Underslept, overworked, a girl with nothing but stubbornness in her pockets. And for the first time, the image didn't embarrass me. It warned me. If a door opens, walk through it like you belong, even if your shoes squeak. That night, back in the Civic, I texted no one. I didn't tell Mom. I didn't tell Dad. Danielle didn't need a new script to rehearse. I wrapped my jacket around my shoulders and watched the light change on the ceiling and tried on a different future. One where I wasn't an extra in a show called The Danielle Hour. One where my name didn't disappear under takeout menus. One where someone said, you. And for the first time in forever, I believed them. On Monday, I walked into Stratex looking like a kid who got lost on a field trip to competence. My thrift store khakis were a suggestion more than a fit. My shirt collar had the spine of overcooked pasta, and my shoes squeaked with every step like small, anxious rodents. The receptionist handed me a badge and a welcome packet the size of a novella. Welcome to operations, Ms. Hart, she said, like this was the first day of a life I didn't have to apologize for. The elevator sighed open on the 18th floor, and I stepped into a different barometric pressure, the kind made of calendars, quiet confidence, and coffee that smelled like someone had hired a sommelier to roast it. People moved with purpose. They wore button-ups that knew their names and walked like their to-do lists were loyal hounds instead of wolves. Amelia, a voice with 5 espressos and a TED Talk behind it. I turned. A tall man in a crisp shirt with socks patterned in tiny ducks stuck out his hand. Kareem, operations. 2 things you should know. I don't do nepotism, and I don't do passive voice. If you mess up, say so. If you win, share credit. Deal? His directness shocked a laugh out of me. Deal. Good. Show me what your brain does when it's curious. Kareem moved fast. In the first 10 minutes, he tossed me into a scrum of acronyms. KPI, ROI, CRM, QBR, like alphabet soup with a quarterly agenda. I took notes like I was trying to capture rain in a thimble. When he saw my pages packed with arrows and margins, he nodded once, like I'd passed a small private test. Then he assigned me to a cost-variance spreadsheet that looked like it had lived a hard life. Clean it. Make it say something true, he said. And don't be precious. We're here to actually move boxes, not worship them. The truth is, I like puzzles. I like building order from noise, which probably explains why I've survived this long on minimums and duct tape. I fell into the numbers. Hours spun out. The floor hummed. I kept glancing at the door like I might be discovered and returned to the loading dock for daring to breathe in a glass office. But no one came to escort me out. Kareem passed behind me once, twice, and each time his eyes flicked to my screen, his mouth doing a not smile that meant continue. Around noon, someone set a paper cup on my desk. I looked up into a face I didn't know and a posture that didn't need to be loud to be seen. Brown hair the color of oversteeped tea, sleeves rolled like he respected work, eyes with that tilted, questioning kindness. "You're Amelia, right?" "Ethan," he said. "Ops Analytics." He tapped the extra cup. "You look like a person who forgot coffee is legal." I blinked. Thank you." He nodded at my spreadsheet. "You're untying a gnarly knot. If you want a second brain, I have one. It's not pretty, but it's trained. There's a heaviness to old neglect. It makes kindness look suspicious on arrival. I almost said no, but the coffee was warm and the offer was clean, and something in his voice carried the gravity of someone who's had to earn his chair. "A second brain sounds responsible," I said. We stood shoulder to shoulder, arguing with decimal places. At one point, he pointed to a broken link like he'd found a bone in a fish. "There," he said. "Your variance spikes every time the system routes to a legacy vendor table. It's like the spreadsheet has a superstition." I laughed in spite of myself. "So we teach it a new religion." "Exactly." He grinned, then glanced at my badge. "Carlton is your—" "My aunt," I said evenly. He waited. I waited back. "Cool," he said finally, with a shrug that wasn't performative. "We like people who do the work." Then he stepped back like he'd made a choice and would let me make mine. Kareem stopped by late afternoon. I walked him through what Ethan and I had found and the way we were rerouting formulas to reflect reality instead of habit. Kareem listened without interruption, then drummed his fingers once against the desk. "Good. You don't worship old data. You interrogate it." A pause. "Both of you. Nice pairing." Ethan waved off the compliment like it might get clingy, then headed to a meeting. I watched him go and felt something that wasn't lightning so much as a steadying, a recognition of someone who'd help you carry furniture up 3 flights without making it a metaphor. The first week was a blur of acronyms and trying not to confuse the coffee machine with a spacecraft. I stayed late and learned fast. By Friday, I could swim in acronyms without drowning. I still squeaked when I walked, but I squeaked with purpose. That night, I did something tiny and tectonic. I moved out of my car. I found a room above a bookstore that smelled like dust and stubborn dreams. The mattress was thin and clean. The radiator hissed like a cat with secrets. I lay down, my back not screaming for the first time in months, and cried into a pillow that was mine. Day 14, I took a photo at my desk. Nothing dramatic. A girl in a too-loose shirt with a determined jaw, a plant I'd already named Keep. I posted it on LinkedIn with a caption that felt like an exhale, from sleeping in my car to starting in ops. Long road ahead, but finally moving forward. No tags, no hashtags. I didn't mention Rhea. I didn't mention Stratex. It felt like a secret I wanted to share with no one and everyone at once. The algorithm had other plans. Comments sprouted overnight. A professor I'd had for 6 weeks before dropping the class messaged, "Proud of you." A recruiter wrote, "Let's talk when you're ready." A stranger said, "I've been there. Keep going." I felt my life like a glass of water that had been shaken, bubbles rising to the top. And then my phone lit up with a name that used to mean home. "Mom, Amelia, is it true you're working with Rhea? We saw a post. Why didn't you tell us?" I stared at the screen like it had accused me of theft. I typed and erased. Somewhere, the radiator hissed in solidarity. Another text like a second shoe dropping. Danielle's asking, "She's hurt you didn't share this with us." Danielle is hurt. The words slid around my brain looking for a place to stick. I pictured her framed certificates, her tuition confetti, the magician at 13, the lawn at 16, and tasted the metal of old weather. I didn't answer. I set the phone face down and breathed until the room stopped tilting. The next morning, Rhea stopped by my desk the way a storm checks in with the sea. "Need anything?" she asked, a double espresso in hand. "A nap and a brain transplant," I said before my filter loaded. "Already operating at a surplus," she said. "Good work on the variance knot." I blinked. "You saw that?" "I see everything I pay for," she said, and the corner of her mouth twitched. Kareem is impressed. Don't let it turn you into a statue. Noted, I said, and tried not to beam like a lighthouse. Week 3. Kareem handed me a small project that wasn't small at all. Shadow a vendor onboarding and build a checklist that actually helped people instead of punishing them. If we do this right, he said, people downstream will have fewer reasons to hate mornings. I lived for that assignment. I asked questions that made meetings go quiet. I smiled at people who didn't expect interns to look them in the eye. I pressed record in my head on everything that broke, then wrote the fix in plain language with verbs that had a spine. Ethan and I developed a rhythm. Silent work punctuated by brief, dry jokes, the safe exchange of brain power. Once he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I said yes. He took me to a place where they pour coffee in glasses, not cups, like it's auditioning for wine. He asked about school. I asked how he ended up in ops. He said, I like making invisible things run. I like when people get to go home on time and don't know my name because nothing broke. It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever said about logistics. On the walk back, he kicked at a leaf and said lightly, We'll have to dodge the alumni mixer in the lobby. It's intense. You sound like you've been burned, I said. He tilted a look at me that was equal parts humor and history. My ex, Sabrina, still pops up at those sometimes. Likes to network with my shadow. He shrugged. It's fine. The name hung in the air like a thread the story would tug later. I put it away where I store things that might matter. That night, the bookstore downstairs hosted a poetry reading that sounded like a thoughtful riot. I worked on the onboarding checklist by the window, letting the cadence downstairs keep time. Peace, I thought, is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of belonging. On Friday, I posted a quiet update, just a thank you to the operations team for making room for me at the table and for pretending my squeaky shoes were part of the brand. Again, I didn't tag Rhea or the company. Again, it traveled farther than intended. And that was the tripwire. Mom sent a LinkedIn request. Her profile still had the gray silhouette. Her bio read, Proud mother of Danielle. No mention of a second daughter. A message followed. So proud of you, sweetheart. We always knew you had potential. You should come to dinner soon. Danielle just launched her campus app. You two could collaborate. Maybe pitch it to your aunt? Family helping family. I laughed out loud, the sound too big for the room. Family helping family. The same family that once asked me to mow the lawn on my birthday and forgot to set a plate at dinner because the TV had better aim. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish anyone, but because silence was finally a choice I could afford. I set my phone down and let the radiator say all the things I didn't. Monday morning, Kareem pulled me into a stand-up that felt less like a meeting and more like a slingshot. We're hosting a vendor roundtable in 2 weeks, he said. You're on the agenda. 10 minutes. Show and tell the new onboarding checklist. Make it land. My stomach flip-turned to confetti and nerves. Me? You, he said, already moving. The person who wrote the words should be the one to say them. When the stand-up broke, Rhea appeared like an exclamation point. You up for it? I surprised myself. Yes. Good, she said simply, as if I'd agreed to breathe. And Amelia, 2 rules for rooms like that. Speak slowly enough to prove you're not afraid, and never apologize for how you learned. After lunch, I returned to my desk to find a new email blinking in my inbox. Subject line, Family Brunch. Let's reconnect. CC. Dad, Danielle, Aunt Linda, 3 cousins who remembered me when they needed moving help. I didn't open it yet. I just stared at the subject line, my cursor hovering like a pulse. Somewhere in the building, a printer started and someone laughed. On the glass, my reflection waited, collar unruly, eyes steady. Behind me, the city was a field of bright squares. I clicked. The brunch invite sat in my inbox like a polished trap. We're so proud of you, Amelia. We'd love to celebrate your success and be a family again. Just brunch and love. That red heart in the subject line was almost funny, like sugar sprinkled on spoiled milk. I didn't reply. Not yet. The truth was, my family hadn't wanted me when I was small enough to fit into the corners of their neglect. Why would I let them find me now, when I was finally standing upright? Work became the only voice that mattered. Kareem drilled me daily. Say it simpler. People trust clarity. Don't let jargon be your armor. Ethan checked my drafts and tossed me quick, careful grins when no one else was looking. Even Rhea started stopping by. Less like a hurricane, more like a compass. Don't mistake momentum for arrival, she told me one morning, sliding a black coffee onto my desk. You're moving fast, but keep asking where you want to end up. I tucked the words into the same drawer in my head where I stored Ethan's kindness. The vendor roundtables came. I stood in a conference room lined with glass, my slides cued, heart pounding loud enough to set off alarms. 20 people stared at me, notebooks poised. In the corner, Rhea sat with her hands folded, expression unreadable. I opened my mouth and heard her earlier advice in my bones. Speak slowly enough to prove you're not afraid. Good morning, I began. Onboarding shouldn't feel like punishment. It should feel like a welcome mat. I walked them through the checklist I'd built. Simple steps, clear timelines, space for feedback. People nodded. A few smiled. Kareem leaned back, arms crossed, eyes warm with something I hadn't seen before, respect. When I finished, the silence broke into murmurs. Then applause that was small but real. Rhea gave me one sharp nod, like a sword striking a shield. Afterward, Ethan caught me by the elevators. That was clean, he said. You sounded like you'd been doing this for years. I smirked. I sounded like I wasn't about to faint? Exactly. His eyes lingered, then he looked away. Want to grab a bite after work? It should have been easy to say yes, but in that exact moment, my phone buzzed with another text from Mom. Danielle's app is launching next month. It's such a brilliant idea. You two should work together. Maybe just mention it to Rhea? Family helping family. The words stung worse than rejection ever had. Family helping family. Where was that motto when I was sleeping in my Civic, eating crusts and calling it dinner? That night, I sat on my narrow bed in the bookstore apartment, the radiator sighing, like it had heard every version of my life. I stared at the message, then at the wall, where my one framed photo hung, a skyline cutout I'd picked from a thrift shop. No Danielle, no parents, just me. When Ethan texted later, still up for food, I typed, rain check, sorry, work pile. Half true. The other half was that I didn't trust myself not to cry into a plate of pasta if he asked me what was wrong. The following Friday, Rhea called me into her office. Sunlight hit her glass desk like a stage light. She leaned back, studying me with that razor gaze. You know Danielle's pitching a student app? I blinked. She told you? She tried. Rhea's mouth curled. She called last week. Left a voicemail about how you and she should partner, how I should consider investing. She tilted her head. I didn't return the call. My breath caught. Why? Because I wanted to hear what you thought first. I swallowed hard. I think Danielle doesn't want me. She wants my access. There's a difference. For the first time, something in Rhea's eyes softened. Good. Keep that difference tattooed in your mind. She slid a folder across the desk. Project notes. Real work. Focus here, not there. I left her office steadier than I'd arrived. The steadiness lasted exactly 3 days. Sunday evening, my door buzzer rang. The sound echoed through my tiny apartment like an omen. I patted down, half sure it was Ethan, half hoping. But when I opened the door, the streetlight framed a figure I hadn't seen in years, dressed in designer casual like she was posing for a magazine cover. Danielle. She smiled like we were best friends in a sitcom. Amelia. Wow, this place is cute. Can I come in? I hesitated, but she was already stepping past me, eyes scanning my small apartment as if she were appraising it for resale. You've really upgraded, she said, perching on my couch. Mom and Dad didn't exaggerate. You're really working for Aunt Rhea. I crossed my arms. What do you want, Danielle? She feigned offense. Can't I just visit my little sister? Not buying it, I said flatly. Her smile tightened. Fine. Look, my app, Link Up, it's about to take off. We're testing beta at 2 campuses. If I could get an intro to Aunt Rhea, even just a coffee, it would change everything. I mean, you owe me at least a conversation. My laugh came out sharp, metallic. Owe you? For what? For being the one they pushed? For setting the bar so I had to jump higher? Mom always said, don't! I cut her off, voice shaking but clear. Don't you dare use their neglect of me as your excuse for pressure. You got tutors, cars, coaches, magicians. I got silence. For the first time, Danielle faltered. Her eyes darted, searching for a script, but I was already standing, pointing to the door. I'm not your shortcut. If your idea is good, pitch it yourself, without me. Her face hardened, lips curling. Wow, you get one job, one shiny desk, and suddenly you're too good for your own family? I met her glare without blinking. No, I'm finally good to myself. That's the difference. She didn't slam the door on her way out. That would have meant conviction. Instead, she left in silence, heels clicking, like she assumed the world would open for her anyway. I locked the door behind her and leaned against it, heart pounding. For years, I had been the extra, the afterthought. Now, for the first time, I was the wall she couldn't walk through. And though my knees shook, I didn't move from that spot for a long time. The morning after Danielle's visit, I arrived at Stratex 10 minutes early, my pulse still bruised from the confrontation. The elevator mirrors caught me looking older than 21, like I'd borrowed some other woman's determination. Kareem spotted me before I'd even set my bag down. "Good," he said, sliding a stack of papers into my hands. "We're launching a logistics pilot, cross-department, real mess. You'll lead coordination." My throat clenched. Me? Lead? Yeah, unless you'd rather stay safe and invisible. His grin was sharp, but kind. Don't overthink. Do the work. Show people why they should follow. The words landed like a dare. That week became a blur of conference calls, broken chains, and late-night spreadsheets. I built timelines on sticky notes across my wall until my apartment looked like a detective show crime scene. Ethan stopped by my desk often, offering help without hovering. "You're running this, Amelia," he said once, eyes steady. "Don't forget that." We started eating lunches together in the little cafe across the street, the kind of place that sold coffee in glasses instead of mugs. One afternoon, he leaned forward over his sandwich. "You're different here than when you started." "How so?" I asked, suspicious. "You don't look like you're apologizing for existing anymore." That line made me laugh, but it also made something in my chest ache. For the first time in years, I wondered what it might feel like to be wanted not out of convenience, but out of choice. The rooftop networking event was Ria's idea. "Come with me," she said. "It's small, founders, investors, a few ops leads. You need to learn how to walk in rooms like these." I almost refused, but when she handed me a charcoal blazer she'd bought, consider it armor, I couldn't. The venue was a glittering rooftop, champagne bubbling like gold in tall glasses, conversations sharp as knives. I hovered near the cheese platter, trying not to look like I was casing the room for exits. "Relax," Ria murmured. "Half of them are faking it anyway." She was right. 10 minutes in, someone asked about my onboarding project, and words spilled out easier than I expected. By the end of the night, I'd swapped cards with 2 directors and survived without dropping my glass. On the elevator down, Ria gave me one approving glance. "You didn't fake it. That's how you know you belong." But just as the ground steadied beneath me, the past showed up in heels. At a downtown industry mixer a week later, I heard my name spoken like a warning. "Amelia Hart?" I turned. A woman with sleek hair and the kind of confidence that made you step back stood in front of me, smile sharp. "Sabrina," Ethan said behind me, tone clipped. "His ex." "Oh," she said sweetly, extending her hand to me. "You must be the intern. Or should I say, niece. Everyone's talking about how fast you've climbed. Lucky to have Ria in your corner." Her words glittered, but the venom beneath was obvious. I shook her hand, pulse steadying. "Luck gets you in the room. Work keeps you there." Her smile didn't slip, but her eyes did. "We'll see." Later, Ethan found me by the refreshments table. "I'm sorry about that," he muttered. "You don't need to apologize for her," I said, even though the sting had already burrowed under my skin. Rumors are cheap currency. Sabrina had just bought herself an opening bid. The week of my project's kickoff, my phone buzzed again. "Mom, we're hosting brunch this Sunday. Please come. Danielle will be there. We want to celebrate how far you've come." The invite glowed like a neon sign of false promises. I stared at it, stomach heavy. They weren't inviting me back. They were inviting the version of me they could brag about now. That night, I sat across from Ethan at the cafe, trying to swallow the knot in my throat. He noticed. "Bad day?" "Family day," I admitted. "They suddenly want me around again." He studied me. "Do you want them around?" I didn't answer right away. The truth was, part of me still craved it, the applause, the proof that I was worth noticing. But another part of me, the part that had slept in a Civic and found peace in a radiator's hiss, whispered something else. Maybe belonging did not mean going back. Maybe it meant building forward. Friday morning, Ria called me into her office. She slid a folder across the desk, her nails tapping once on the cover. "This project, it's yours. Success or failure will wear your name. Can you handle people doubting you?" "Yes," I said before fear could answer. "Good." She leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Because people will. Doubt is free. Respect is earned." On my way out, my phone buzzed again. Another brunch reminder from Mom, now CCing cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. We miss you. Let's be a family again. For the first time, I didn't feel tempted. I felt tested. And I wasn't sure whose test mattered more, my family's or mine. Sunday arrived, like a bruise I couldn't stop pressing. My inbox still glowed with the brunch invite, bright as bait. We're so proud. Let's reconnect. Just brunch and love. But I knew the fine print. They wanted what I could give, not who I was. I didn't go. Instead, I sat at my tiny kitchen table with a mug of black coffee and the project binder Ria had handed me. Sticky notes fanned out across the pages like small, defiant flags. This was where I belonged, not at a table where my name had been a ghost for years. Monday morning, Danielle proved me right. She showed up at my office building, again. This time, dressed to kill, carrying her laptop like it was the Holy Grail. I spotted her reflection in the glass lobby before I heard her voice. "Amelia, there you are." She rushed forward, face too bright. "We really need to talk." I kept walking toward security, my badge in hand. "I told you before, I'm not your shortcut." Her smile flickered. "You're being dramatic. It's just a coffee with Ria. Just one conversation. Don't you think you owe us that much?" That word again. Oh. Like all my nights in the Civic had been some kind of family down payment. I turned, my voice sharper than I expected. "I don't owe you anything, Danielle. I built this without you, without Mom, without Dad. If your app is good, you'll find your own way in. Stop trying to use mine." She went still, then dropped her voice, steel under sugar. "Fine, but don't come crawling back when you realize family is all you have." I swiped my badge and walked away, my pulse steady. For the first time, her threat didn't feel like gravity. It felt like noise. But noise has a way of following you. That same week, I spotted Sabrina again, Ethan's ex. She was at a mixer, standing with a group of analysts, her laughter sharp enough to cut glass. I caught snippets of her voice. "Nepotism hire? Fast-tracked because of Carlton blood. Not exactly merit." I froze. My hands clenched so tight around my coffee I nearly cracked the cup. Later, Ethan found me in the cafe across the street. He looked frustrated, guilty. "She's spreading things about you, about how you got here." I heard. My voice was calm, but my chest was on fire. "None of it's true," he said quickly. "I know that. Kareem knows that. Ria knows that." I stared at him, searching his face. "Do you? Really?" His answer came too fast. Of course. But something in his tone wavered, like he wasn't sure how to stand between me and his past. The pressure climaxed at dinner that week. Mom called, her voice syrupy, rehearsed. "Your father and I were just talking, Amelia. You've really grown up. We're so proud." I let the silence hang, waiting. And then it came. Danielle's startup is at a crucial phase. She's built such a brilliant app, connects students to freelance gigs. It's so modern. Anyway, she's looking for investors, and since you're working with Ria, maybe you could just mention it? There it was, the ask, stripped of pretense. "Family helping family," Mom added quickly, like it was a magic spell. I swallowed the bitter laugh rising in my throat. "Family helping family," I repeated. "Where was that when I was sleeping in my car? Where was that when you couldn't even remember to save me a plate?" She stuttered. We didn't know, sweetheart. If we had... You knew enough. You just didn't care." My voice was steady now, cold. "I'm not your ticket to Ria. I'm not your pawn in Danielle's pitch. Stop pretending this is about love." Her silence was louder than any scream. "I have to go," I said, and hung up. That night, I opened a blank email and typed, "Hi, Mom. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate the gesture, but I think what you're hoping to reconnect with isn't me. It's who I've become. And that version of me wasn't built with your support. She was built in spite of your absence. I won't be attending brunch. Not because I'm bitter, but because I'm busy building a life where I don't have to wonder if I matter. Tell Danielle good luck with her app. Amelia." I hit send before I could doubt myself. The next morning, my project launched. The room was packed. Managers, analysts, even Ria, silent at the back with her hawk's gaze. I presented the plan, fielded questions, defended choices. My voice shook once, then steadied. By the end, the murmurs were satisfied, even impressed. But as people filed out, I caught Sabrina's smirk near the door. She leaned close enough to whisper as she passed. "Let's see how long you last without your aunt's shadow." Ethan stayed behind after everyone left. "You were incredible," he said, eyes locked on mine. "Don't let her get to you." "Easy for you to say," I muttered. He flinched, then straightened. "Amelia, I'm here, with you, not with her." I studied him, the weight of my family's demands and Sabrina's poison still pressing down. "Then prove it," I said quietly. "Stand beside me when it counts." Not just when it's easy. He nodded once. I will. For the first time, I let myself believe he meant it. The weeks after the kickoff felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. Either the ground would crumble beneath me, or I'd learn I could fly. I poured everything into the logistics pilot, meetings stacked like bricks, deadlines pressed like storm clouds. Some nights I stayed at the office until the cleaners vacuumed around me, but for the first time, exhaustion felt like investment, not punishment. Ethan was there through all of it, reviewing my drafts, bringing me coffee when I forgot meals, making space without taking over. He kept his word. When Sabrina tried to corner him after another mixer, tossing barbed comments about how I was just Carlton's pet project, he cut her off in front of half the room. Enough, Sabrina, he said flatly. She's earned every step she's taken. You don't get to rewrite her story. The silence that followed was worth more than applause. Later, he told me what he'd said. I won't let anyone make you feel small. I believed him. The pilot ended ahead of schedule. 3 departments sent glowing feedback. Kareem slapped the report on my desk with rare pride. You did it. No excuses, no crutches, just results. That afternoon, Rhea called me into her office. She was waiting with 2 copies of the same document. This, she said, sliding one across, is an offer letter. Permanent position. Mid-level ops. Salary. Benefits. Paid time off. It's yours, if you want it. My throat closed. I stared at the words like they might vanish if I blinked too hard. Why now? I whispered. Her eyes softened just a fraction. Because I've seen how you work when no one's watching. That's the only measure that counts. I signed. That night, I walked through downtown slower than usual, letting the neon soak into me. I bought a falafel wrap from a street cart and sat on the same curb, where I'd once cried into cold pizza crusts. Same city, same girl, different spine. 2 days later, another email arrived. Family brunch again. We miss you, Amelia. Let's reconnect. This time I didn't hesitate. I typed back, Hi, Mom. What you miss isn't me. It's what you think I can give you now. I don't hold anger anymore, but I won't hand out access to people who only show up when it's convenient. I wish you well. Amelia. I hit send, then closed my laptop. The ache was still there, but lighter. Closure doesn't always come with reconciliation. Sometimes it comes with a period at the end of a sentence you finally wrote yourself. That weekend, Rhea invited me to dinner, not in her office, but in her home. For once, there were no files, no projects, just food and conversation. She raised a glass halfway through the meal. To the girl who thought she was invisible, she said, eyes sharp with pride. Turns out you were just waiting for the right light. I swallowed hard. Thank you for everything. No, she said simply. You did this. I just gave you a door. You walked through it. Later, Ethan walked me home. We stopped outside my bookstore apartment, the radiator humming through the wall. He hesitated, then asked, So, what are we? Just teammates? Or, I looked at him, at the man who had stood beside me when it mattered. I don't want to chase anymore, I said. I want to choose. He smiled. Then choose. I did. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about my family. The birthdays forgotten, the dinners I wasn't invited to, the years I mistook silence for normal. But then I look around at the life I've built, the desk with my name on the project lead folder, the friends who know my worth, the man who shows up, the aunt who believed me before I believed myself. I'm not chasing anymore. I'm choosing to belong.